All right, fifth graders, this is Mr. Combs. I'm back here with part 2 for our problem set on lesson 7. So without any further ado, we're going to get going. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to complete this chart and then plot the points on the coordinate plane below. I'm going to label these as A, B, C, and D. So I can see that for my x value of this, over to 0 and up 1, okay? One of the things that's important to note about this coordinate plane here is that it's increasing by 2, okay? So for every one of those lines, it's going to be 1, okay? So I see over to 0, up to 1, okay? Which is going to give us A, over to 2, up to 3, so over to 2, up to 2, then one more line, to 3, and then that is going to give us B, 4, 5, over to 4, up to 4, then one more line to give me 5. That's going to give me C. Now D, 6, 7, over to 6, up to over to 6, then up to 6, and then one more. That's going to give us 7. And then that's going to be D. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to label each one of these points. We know that X comes first, then Y. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and now I'm going to use my handy dandy straight edge to draw that line. Okay, all right. So now I have those guys on a nice line, and so now we're going to write a rule showing the relationship between the x and the y coordinates on the line. So I see that I have a y coordinate of 1, an x coordinate of 0, so 1, 0, 1 is 1 more than 0, 3, 2, 3 is 1 more than 2, 4, 5, 5 is 1 more than 4, 7, 6, 7 is 1 more than 6. So when I see this, I know that my y-coordinate is 1 whole more than my x-coordinate. So each y-coordinate is 1 more than the x-coordinate. Okay, each y-coordinate is 1 more than the x-coordinate. And so now I'm going to move on. I'm going to make points E and F down here. And so I'm just going to kind of follow this same pattern. Okay, I'm going to increase my x by 2. So I see that my last one was 6. So I'm going to have an x of 8. And if I'm thinking about my rule, each y-coordinate is 1 more than the x-coordinate. Okay, so I know that 1 more than 8 is going to be 9. Okay, so I'm going to go over 8, and then I'm going to go all the way up to 10. And then in between, over 8, and then all the way up to 8. And in between 8 and 10, I know it's going to be 9. So 8, and then 9, that's going to be point E. Okay, and then for F now, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say 10, okay, and then 10 increasing by 2, okay, and then 10 plus 1 more is going to be 11, so that's going to be at 10, 11. So I'm going to go all the way over to 10, and then up to 10 wholes, and then 1 more, and that's going to be 11. And so we're going to label that as point F. And then the way we can really easily check to see if we were correct with following our rule is just simply seeing if those would line up on our line, and I can see here that they will. So I will just continue those points on down the line. So that is going to be the answer for part 1. Please pause the video if you need to. And we are going to keep moving with part 2. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to label these A, B, C, and D. Okay, this coordinate plane is different than the one that we had up top. This was increasing by 2. These ones are increasing by 1 with 1 line in between. So that line in between, each one of these lines is going to be equal to 1/2 in terms of increasing or decreasing. So for X, I'm going to go over 1/2, and then up 1. So that's going to be my point A. Now I'm going to go to 1 and then up to 2. That's going to be point B. Now I'm going to increase by 1/2 again, so over to 1/2, and then all the way up to 3. That's going to be C. Now I'm going to go over to D at 2 and then up to 4. That's going to be D. Okay, and then now what we're going to do is we're going to use our handy dandy straight edge and put these guys on a line. So I'm going to line it up as best I can. And we're going to go all the way down. Okay, all right. I'm also going to label these coordinate points in my box right here. So 1/2 and 1, 1 and 2, 1 and 1/2 and 3, and then 2 and 4. Okay, and so now this one is going to be a little bit trickier. So I see, for example, if we were just going to compare the values using subtraction, okay, 1 minus 1/2 is going to be equal to 1/2. 2 minus 1 is going to be equal to 1. 3 minus 1 and 1/2 is going to be equal to 1 and 1/2. Okay, 4 minus 2 is going to be equal to 2. I want to think about this using a multiplicative or multiplication relationship. So I want to specifically focus on these ones that are whole numbers. So I want us to think about what 1 would multiply to make 2. Okay, I know that 1 times blank equals 2. Okay, 1 times 2 is going to equal 2. I'm going to put a box around that 2 there. Okay, now I'm going to think about my other whole number. 2 times blank is going to equal 4. And I know that 2 times 2 is going to equal 4. And then I can also prove this using my ones that use fractions. So 1/2 times blank is equal to 1. Okay, I know that 1/2 times 2 wholes would be equal to 2 over 2, which is also equal to 1. Okay, and then 1 and 1/2 is equal to 3. Okay, and so we'll do that again. I'm going to turn that into a fraction greater than 1. Okay, so 1 and 1/2 is going to be 3/2. Okay, and then we'll see if we multiply by 2 wholes times 2 over 1. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 6 times 1 gives me 2. 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. So I can see that when I multiply each one of these by 2 wholes, okay, and just because these are fractions, we're still multiplying by 2 wholes. We know that 2 over 1 is equal to 2 wholes. That each one of these is multiplied by 2. Okay, so my value or my rule is that each y coordinate is 2 times its corresponding x value. Each y coordinate is 2 times its corresponding x value. Okay, so each y coordinate is 2 times its corresponding x value. So for this one, I'm going to use whole numbers. So my first point, I'm going to do 3. So I want us to think about 3 times blank is equal to blank. So each y is 2 times. I would multiply 3 by 2 now. 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. So my coordinate point is going to be 3, 6. And so I'm going to go over 3 and then all the way up to 6. Okay, and we'll say, okay, so 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. Okay, and so now what I want us to think about is if I was to do 4, I'd be way up here kind of off the chart. So we are going to push ourselves and we are going to do it as an x value of 2 and 1/2. Okay, all right. So don't get afraid of the fraction. It's still multiplication. We can think back to doing fraction multiplication. First thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this x coordinate into a fraction greater than 1. So 2 1/2 is a fraction greater than 1. 2 times 2 gives me 4, plus 1 is going to give me 5 halves times 2 wholes. Okay, we're going to multiply straight across. 5 times 2 gives me 10. Okay, 2 times 1 gives me 2. 10 over 2 is the same as 5 wholes. Okay, so that y coordinate, excuse me, is going to be 5 wholes. So I'm going to go over to 2 1/2, and then up to 5 wholes. Okay, and we're going to see if they line up right on our line, and we are going to go from there. All right, so we double checked our work using our line. They match up on that line, and we wrote those rules. So I will leave this up for you guys to kind of double check your work. And we are actually going to do a part 3 because this is a longer lesson, and we'll go from there. So thanks for listening.